Hello. I understand that the focus of this panel is fundamentalism and secularism versus religion, family, and human rights. It's a very broad topic, and I don't really have prepared remarks, but I would like to share perhaps just a few thoughts that may be helpful as your discussions go forward. I think as we approach these issues, there's something of a 500-pound or 1,000-pound elephant in the middle of the room that we are all aware of, but perhaps having difficulty confronting. And that is the question that all of us must face as to how and why an ideology as hateful, as vicious, as violent, as nihilistic as that of ISIS has taken root in the minds and in the hearts of thousands, maybe tens of thousands of young people from around the world, including, quite frankly, an astonishing number from the largely free, tolerant, prosperous nations of Europe and the United States as well. I don't know about you, but I know that speaking for myself, I am not satisfied with some of the explanations that I have heard for this phenomenon. One thing we often hear discussed is, well, it's somehow the result of high unemployment, discrimination against Muslim minority communities in these countries, a lack of integration and assimilation. These troubling circumstances are real, and they are absolutely a problem. But to me, they do not seem like a sufficient explanation for anyone joining up, as I say, to an ideology as horrific as that of ISIS is. Sadly, there are many places in the world that we could look to where those same circumstances pertain: high unemployment, discriminatory practices, lack of assimilation and integration. And yet we don't see a turn towards this evil nihilistic violence. Another explanation that we sometimes hear, or that I have heard offered, perhaps you have as well, has to do with ISIS's very, very sophisticated use of social media. We'll hear sort of smart talking heads say, well, they have this sophisticated way of recruiting young people. And again, I must be quite honest, I do not find this to be a persuasive explanation. Indeed, from what I understand, ISIS uses its sophisticated social media operations to portray and glorify its most barbaric practices, which, let's be honest, to any normal human being are so repugnant and so really revolting that far from serving as some sort of a recruitment tool, should send any human being worthy of that title really running in the other direction. No, I think we need to probe our cultures and our souls perhaps a little more deeply to try and answer the question of what is going on. By no means do I think I have all the answers. Really, what I have more are just some thoughts that may be a starting point for all of us as we seek answers. First, I think we need to acknowledge the proven fallacy of the so-called secularization thesis, which posited for many years that as nations and societies became better educated, more prosperous and modern, that religion and faith would be overtaken by rational secularism, and that religion itself would become little more than sort of a vestigial appendage characterized by cultural remnants and traditions. Well, guess what? Apparently 3/4 of the world's population just didn't get the secularization memo. And yet, this values-neutral, or perhaps more accurately stated, faith-neutral ethic has permeated our modern Western DNA to a very, very significant extent. And this ethic has very much been the modus operandi of so much of the world's political, financial, academic, and cultural elite, that we find ourselves in this strange moment that calls to mind the famous words of William Butler Yeats in his poem titled The Second Coming, in which he wrote, "The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity." We do seem to see this imbalance between the passion and the intensity of these highly educated and reasonable and tolerant and open secular elites, as contrasted with the unbelievable fervor and willingness to sacrifice everything, including their lives and, of course, the lives of many innocents, in pursuit of their dark vision. I think that those of us who believe in pluralism, who believe in religious freedom, who believe in democracy and human rights and women's rights, yes, we are the best, but do we have the conviction to match the virtue and the importance of the values we claim to stand for? I would suggest to all of us today, myself included, that we are the ones who need to be filled with passionate intensity. And, you know, a simpler way of putting it might be to suggest that we need to recapture that old-fashioned notion of having the courage of our convictions, of being ready to counter those who are advancing such hateful ideologies, with nonviolence, of course, but with a passion and a fervor that equals their own. Finally, there's sort of one last thought I'd like to share with you, and not being there to participate in the panel with all of you, I don't know how well all of this fits into the other discussions that are going on. But another thought occurs to me, again, in trying to grapple with the mystery of why so many young people from Western tolerant societies are being lured into the ideology and the service of an organization as evil as ISIS. And that is that we have somehow left this younger generation to ponder, too often unaided by lasting, deep values, the emptiness of a world that sends to these young people the message that they should seek their life's purpose and satisfaction in the pursuit of materialism, ever more clever and comprehensive technology, hedonism, and the relentless competition for success. I think that many young people in all of our countries know, they feel deep in their bones that this is sort of a fruitless pursuit. And they also feel that a life built just around pursuing materialism and success and sort of the immediate pleasure of the moment leaves a gaping hole. It leaves in their heart a kind of an emptiness. And for far too many of them, the fierce, unquestioning, apocalyptic faith of the jihadists can offer a way of filling that aching, gaping hole. As I said, I don't know that I have answers to these questions, but I think that we do need to sort of look within and find ways to incorporate some of the values that are strengthened in societies that protect religious freedom, so that religious ideas and beliefs, values and principles are brought back into the marketplace of ideas, that they have their place at the table, not because they are the answer for everyone, by no means are they, but because when ideas, ideologies, ways of looking at the world that include the deepest first principles are on the table, they offer an alternative to that shallow materialism that seems to have left so many young people cold and feeling alienated and lost and alone and turning in directions that none of us want to see them turn. I wish that I could be there to hear the rest of your wonderful conversation and dialogue. As I say, not being present with you, I don't know whether these thoughts will be able to add to the value of the discussions you're having, but I want one more time to commend the organizers of this important conference as well as the participants. These are just the sorts of questions that we need to grapple with. There are answers out there. As I stated in my earlier, more formal remarks in a different session, I'm convinced beyond a shadow of a doubt that the robust protection of religious freedom and the freedom of conscience and belief is a key part of the solution to the problems we are grappling with. And I congratulate you on this conference and look forward to hearing and learning about the results. Thank you.